Senator Desani.
Senator Cedillo, we'll be starting with you right after we take the roll. Do we have enough? Perfect.
Kehoe?
Here.
Kehoe here. Cox?
Here.
Cox here. Alquist?
Here.
Alquist here. Corbett? Denham? Leno?
Here.
Leno here. Lou?
Here.
Lou here. Price?
Aye.
Price here. Walters? Wyland? Yee? Okay.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Senator Cedillo, you're going to take up an extraordinary session, SB 31, in the 8th extraordinary session. So you may begin.
Yes, Madam Chair. As you heard yesterday, and members, thank you. Let me speak with the same urgency that we have for this bill. This bill basically takes $20 million of ARA funds and works in a partnership with the community colleges to match those dollars, to create close to 500 jobs, and to help us both install and train people in installation of energy management systems, to integrate energy management systems, to develop and implement an outreach program using the community college network to track outcomes, and to develop a plan to enhance conservation of energy on the community colleges throughout the state. Yesterday we heard from the Chancellor and our former colleague, Senator Jack Scott. Today we have his very capable and able assistant with us, Mr.
We'll
Skinner.
see if he can fill Senator Scott's shoes. Isn't that right, Senator Cedillo? Would you like to testify in favor?
Sure. Eric Skinner, Vice Chancellor for Fiscal Policy with the California Community Colleges. And here in strong support of this bill. The resources this bill would provide would be a big step forward for the system. We've got an exciting project. It's an energy efficiency project that's estimated it would achieve almost 48 million kilowatt hours in savings across the system. It would not only have the positive environmental impacts, but also, very importantly for our colleges, it would help them cut their utility bills, freeing up money for instruction. Very
and a
important.
Significant increase in California jobs as well. So.
Absolutely. 488 jobs is our estimate, yes.
Very good. Is there any other testimony in favor? Any testimony in opposition?
In favor.
You're in favor? All righty. And then we'll go to finance after that.
Mark McDonald, McCallum Group, on behalf of a number of local community college districts, including Los Rios, the Butte Glen, San Jose Evergreen, a number of districts on the list, very much in support and echo the comments of my colleague previously.
Thank you. Further testimony in favor? Any opposition? Finance, do you have a comment?
The Department of Miriam Inchinita with the Department of Finance. The Department of Finance is opposed to this measure. We're concerned that redirecting previously authorized appropriations in the bill from the intended purposes would result in a slowing down of getting the funds out, the ARA funds out the door. They would have to reevaluate and restructure their existing allocations and their existing guidelines. Given the strict timelines articulated in the federal ARA legislation, we hold this as a serious concern. Additionally, the question remains whether the expenditures identified in the bill are consistent with the ARA guidelines as they currently have been presented by the federal government, and we believe that the current allocation, as it was appropriated by the legislature, did create a number of clean energy manufacturing jobs, and we're concerned that because this has an education component to it and a planning component to it, that the jobs created in this bill would in fact be less than those currently would result from the current appropriation.
Thank you. Yes, Senator Cox, and then Senator Cedillo, I'll ask you to respond.
I just want to ask you, you indicated that you believe that this is not in compliance with the ARA. Is that, did I hear you correctly?
We are concerned that it may not be consistent, and I don't have a full-blown analysis at this time. But
at what items are you concerned about that's not being consistent? Is that the part of the analysis that's not complete?
It's the training components of it, whether instead of being for the projects, for the shovel-ready types of projects, but being actually spent in the classrooms is the part we're questioning.
Are there any other projects that are ready to go? It appears to me from the data that I have read that these are projects that our community colleges have ready to go.
I don't have the Energy Commission here with me today. I don't have a complete list as to how much of the federal ARA funds are ready.
All right, thank you.
Other comments, members? Senator Leno?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Of the different pots within the CEC's ARA total $315 million, we're taking the $20 million in this bill out of, I would imagine, the energy efficiency conservation block grant. That's correct?
Yes.
So I'd just like to hear from Finance how that is a non-compliant use. This is all about energy efficiency.
To the extent that we would be using, and again, our folks have not had as much time to analyze it fully, but our concern lies with whether or not the types of training in the classroom and the types of education and the types of planning referenced in the bill would be the same types that are consistent with the federal regulations.
Okay. And I think that was my only question. Thank you. Move the bill.
Thank you, Senator Cox. I would ask Finance to check that question about ARA compliance with the Inspector General and get that information back to the committee. Is her assessment coinciding with Finance or not? And what would her evaluation be of the use of ARA funds for this purpose? Okay?
Very good.
So you'll let us know?
Is this not going to
No, this is a due pass. This is a due pass, members. This is both bills today are part of our special session jobs package, so we expect to take them up on the Senate floor tomorrow should they pass out of committee, and then they'll be headed over to the Assembly. So these are not going to suspense. Senator Cedillo, would you care to close?
Yes, I would only add, and we appreciate the vigilance of Finance, but the Bureau of Audits gave the report. The dollars have been slow to move. It's the only reason that we're here. We are every project that the community colleges have in this package are shovel-ready, quotes, are ready to go. The planning aspects we should applaud. They only bring value added. They're not going to be paid for by this specifically. And it's really a way of creating jobs, and as the concerns were raised yesterday, ensuring that those jobs are local and in the community. And so to the extent that they have those components bring value to the project rather than distract from it and are not in any way aberrant of the guidelines of ARA.
Thank you, Senator Cedillo. I think Senator Leno's question has come back.
My question has come
now
back.
that you mention it, Senator Leno has a question.
Did Chancellor Scott, or do we know from others with community college, have great certainty given the requirement of the $25 million match of private funds, or is that going to be in trouble with that?
No, that's solid.
Great.
Yeah.
Good.
Very good. A little leverage. We have a motion from Senator Cox. This is due pass. Without further ado, then we'll call the roll, please.
Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Cox?
Aye.
Cox, aye. Alquist?
Aye.
Alquist, aye. Corbett? Denham? Leno?
Aye.
Leno, aye. Lou?
Aye.
Lou, aye. Price?
Aye.
Price, aye. Walters? Wyland?
Aye.
Wyland, aye. Yee?
Aye.
Yee, aye.
It's 8-0. That bill is out. Thank you. And Senator DeSaulnier is going to present on behalf of Senator Steinberg. This is SB 29 in the 8th session. It's on furloughs. Senator DeSaulnier, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A brilliant bill by a brilliant author. This bill will exempt state civil service employees from being furloughed if employed in positions where at least 95% of their funding sources are other than general fund. And then on the other part, it will specifically exempt all employees of the Franchise Tax Board and the Board of Equalization from being furloughed. The Senate Office of Oversight and Outcomes did a report just a few days ago that estimated that for the Franchise Tax Board, we lose about $465 million in collected taxes because of the furloughs. For the Board of Equalization, they estimate about $264 million in tax money that we failed to collect. So California has lost about $7.15 for every dollar saved. So for those reasons, and I know some of you heard this at PERB yesterday, the Pro Tem thought that this was an important urgency item that might straighten out a situation that actually doesn't help our financial situation.
Thank you, Senator DeSaulnier. We'll take testimony in favor. Please come right up. Testimony in favor, come on up.
Stephanie Burry with SEIU Local 1000. We represent about 95,000 state employees, many at BOE, FTB, EDD, many in specially funded programs and federally funded programs that would be exempted from this with this bill, and we're in support of this measure.
Thank you. Next, please.
Madam Chair and members, Caitlin Vega for the California Labor Federation, also here in support. We think the current furlough policy, which furloughs employees across the board, whether they're generally funded or specially funded, doesn't make policy sense. It doesn't make fiscal sense. So we think that this bill addresses many of the most serious issues by exempting the employees who are not general funded and who are revenue generating, which not only is good for the state finances, but also is good for all of the families who've seen dramatic wage cuts because of the furloughs. Thank you.
Very good. Next, please. This is testimony in favor.
Pat Moran with Aaron Reed & Associates, representing California Association of Professional Scientists and Professional Engineers in California Government. We support the bill for similar reasons. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Crimmins, how are you?
Better, I could stand it now. Tim Cremens, operating engineers in full support. And please remember, our Caltrans workers are also first responders on the highway, and they are furloughed also.
Thank you very much. Other testimony in favor? Is there opposition testimony? Finance? Comments, please.
The Department of Finance is opposed to this measure. If enacted, the legislation would become effective June 1, 2010, which would result in increased payroll costs of $4.3 million of general fund and $51.7 million in other funds, which could result in shortfalls to the departments that these savings would occur, these employees would go back to. And that is because under the Budget Act, in Section 3.90, the Department of Finance was directed to take these funds from the department. This bill does not notwithstand Section 3.90 of the Budget Act, nor does it restore funding for those departments. So even should some of the revenues realize in the 1 month time frame that this bill would, in essence, be in effect, there is going to be $54 million hole because these departments do not have those funds any longer and would either have to, it's an unallocated cut to their employee compensation line. So some other way they're going to have to find $54 million or they're going to have to come back to the legislature with a series of deficiencies if they're not able to make those cuts in the next 30 days once the bill is in effect.
Thank you. Comments, members? Senator Cox?
Madam Chair, yesterday in hearing this bill in PERS, I did call to my colleagues' attention that in January of 2009 that I did in fact visit with the governor and suggested that we not do furloughs because of the inherent unfairness of the furlough program, but rather that all state employees, including the elected, members of the Assembly, members of the Senate, as well as all other statewide electeds, frankly, take a haircut of 4, 5, 6, 7%, so that everyone would have a shared responsibility relative to this particular situation. We simply are in a crisis from the standpoint of financially. But it doesn't make any sense to have a situation where services have been paid for and still not have the ability to get the service from the department. So I will in fact move this bill today. I indicated to Senator Seinberg I would support this bill. I think it's the right thing to do, but I do say to the SEIU and the California Highway Patrol and the transportation folks, we have a serious crisis. Everybody needs to participate, and to the extent that we could get the governor and all of the statewide officers to get together along with the legislative leaders, I believe, in fact, for the betterment of California, this in fact could be resolved. But I will support this today and would make that motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Cox. We have a motion. Other comments? Senator Weiland and Senator Leno, I'll go to you next.
Just a question of finance. You said in that 1 month the cost would be $4.3 million, and you added some other phrase that I missed there.
And $51.7 million in special funds. So it was $4.3 million to the general fund and $51.7 million in other funds.
Just for those folks?
Just for the employees that are 95% funded from non-general fund, and for the franchise tax board, because the Board of Equalization is not participating in furloughs. So it would be for FTE.
I want to make sure I understand the 51.7. The 51.7 million is coming from where?
They would
that
be
expenditure.
Non-general fund funds. So it would be those employees in departments that are paid from other sources. So they could be the Department of Motor Vehicles,
Water resources, things like that.
Right, EDD. Some are federal funds, some are special funds, but it totals based on our runs. It would be $51.7 million, and I believe
that's what would be used during that 1 month period.
Yes.
How many people are we talking about?
I don't have the...
We're talking FTB and BOE?
No, FTB, then any other employee that would be receiving 95% of his salary.
Oh, across the entire government.
Across the...
Okay, I see. Okay.
Sorry.
Wow.
There are not that many people at FTB and BOE.
Well, we had to be collecting a lot of taxes. Okay, all right.
We have some ideas in that regard, Senator Weiland.
Senator Leno?
I had thought I was a co-author of the bill, and if it's possible, I would like to be.
We'll make a note of that.
Thank you.
We'll make a note of that. Anyone else? Any other comments? We've got all the public testimony. We have a motion by Senator Cox. I'll ask the Secretary to call the roll, please.
Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Cox?
Aye.
Cox, aye. Alquist?
Aye.
Alquist, aye. Corbett? Denham? Leno?
Aye.
Leno, aye. Liu? Liu, aye. Price?
Aye.
Price, aye. Walters? Weiland?
No.
Weiland, no. Yee?
Aye.
Yee, aye.
7-1, that bill is out. Members, that completes the file. Thank you for being here, and we're adjourned.